Hello, everybody. My name is Arden, and welcome to Monday Night Live. Today, I've got an old friend of mine, Tim Durkin. Some of you remember Tim from previous recordings, from previous Monday Night Lives. But let me just tell you a little bit about Tim. I first met Tim in Marco Island when we were both studying at Marco Island University, part of the National Speakers Association, 14 years ago. Because we're both lifelong learners, philo-maths, whatever the word is, we've just got a passion for learning. We hit it off immediately and we remained friends ever since. Tim joined the very first Monday Night Live, which we ran nearly 2 years ago. And I'd like to welcome Tim back again. Welcome, Tim. Thanks for joining us from Granbury in Texas.
Well, I'm very glad to be here as either a participant or a spectator. So thanks again for inviting me on, Derek.
This session today is a follow-up from the session we ran 3 weeks ago about energy, because people need as much energy as possible to get through their lives and their business lives and their life skills. So today's session is called Energy Management, and I want to hear from you, and I will add a few things in, but first of all, we'll go straight over to Texas to Tim to talk about energy management. Thanks, Tim.
Well, thank you again, Derek. I've been into energy management. I've been into energy management for about 25 years when it dawned on me that as I was doing a lot of training and working with teams and individuals, they would all say, well, in the IT business or in the banking business or into this, and as a leader and as a manager, they'd have to do this. And I said, could you consider for a moment that you're really not in the banking business, that you're actually, as a leader or manager or an individual, you're in the energy management business. Your job is to manage your energy and that of others in order to prove profitable results by however your organization measures them. It could be financial, but in healthcare, for example, National Health Service would be better patient outcomes. So the energy management became a very big thing, and I started studying ways to manage individual and group energy better and better. The very first part of my topic today, I want to talk to you about how to get to your 100th. And I'm not actually talking about your 100th birthday. I'm talking about how do you get to having at least 15 minutes all to yourself every single day. And the reason I call it 100th is that 15 minutes is 1/100th of a day. I know some of you are in accounting and some of you are in finance and banking, and actually 15 minutes is 1/96th of a day, but I would like to round up, if you will, and call it 100th of a day. And the reason I say that is that sometimes we don't take any time to import energy for us. We're great exporters of energy. We have many roles during the day. And so I'd ask, how many hours of a day do you spend at work exporting your energy to get these results, to get these better patient outcomes, if that's your field? How many hours of a day do you spend as a spouse, partner, or significant other? How many hours of a day do you spend as a parent, grandparent, aunt, or uncle? How many hours of a day do you spend in all these roles? And I'm suggesting, I don't tell people what to do, but I'm suggesting that you spend at least 15 minutes of every day where you are undisturbed, and you can spend that 15 minutes importing energy by a variety of ways. Most of today, I will be talking about using breathing techniques. The breathing techniques and the breath work, if you will, and breath therapy is still very much an emerging field. If I were ever going to make a long-term bet on something becoming very popular, it would be breath therapy. I predict that there will be storefronts or there'll be businesses around people doing breath therapy, as there are today in yoga studios, spin cycle classes, and so on. Now, breath work may be part of those, but it's going to be, I think, as popular as yoga in the not too distant future, because it has this astonishing capacity to renew, refresh, restore, rejuvenate, whatever. It is a way to import energy or to manage the energy that we already have. You see, breathing is the only system in our body that is both automatic and under our own control. When it is automatic, it's breath awareness. There's two types of breathing we'll look at. There's breath awareness and there's conscious breathing. With breath awareness, the breath breathes you. With conscious breathing, you breathe the breath. Now, there's two sources. There's so much on this topic, and there's many sources and a growing number of sources of expertise on this. But there are three that I'd like to mention. One you've heard me mention before, a gentleman by the name of Wim Hof. Wim Hof is very much into extreme breathing. He can do extreme things. He's 1 in a billion kind of human being. But the two that I would really like to recommend is a person by the name of Dan Brule, B-R-U-L-E, with a mark over it. And his book is called Just Breathe, which I think is an excellent compendium of interesting science around breathing and also a lot of techniques. And the second source that I highly recommend is a gentleman by the name of Casper van der Meulen. Casper is from the Netherlands. He has books. He has outstanding YouTube videos. He does and sends out a lot of stuff at no charge, a lot of great material at no charge, but he can also certify people to become breath therapists. And Casper happens to be very easy to listen to. He's actually got a podcast called Walking Our Path. And as he walks, he does some breathing exercises and invites you to join along with him. I know my friend Will Kintish is very big on walking. I know there are others there, but Casper's podcast would be an excellent example. So I'm going to do some more later, but I'm going to turn it back to you for a bit, Derek.
Tim, I've been reading about breathing techniques recently, and I find them fascinating. I'm told that you can have an automatic altered state of consciousness, which is what we talk about in trance, by lowering your breathing to 6 breaths a minute. And I've done that. I've also learned that 4 breaths a minute, 4 deep breaths, and it doesn't have to be in a minute, will also change your thinking. But I read yesterday that 3 breaths a minute does even more, slowing it down at that pace. Now, I tried to do that, but I couldn't do it at all. But I am really interested in this, and I'm interested in why people have only just discovered it. That's what it seems to be. I guess it's just one of those things that people didn't realize, that it does slow your body down. And 15-minute breaks are just so essential to whatever we're doing. And people that are stressed out don't seem to do that. They don't go and smell the roses or go out and hug a tree or whatever turns you on, but just taking that break away from your desk. And Ali, the physio, hasn't been able to join us today, but stretching is one of the most important things to do there, again, because stretching changes your mindset as well. So just a few thoughts from me, Tim. I'll hand it back to you for this second part of your session.
Yep, the key is to be very guarded with that 15 minutes. You can have a spot in your home. You can do it in the car, but what you need to do is go someplace and be able to close the door. And if you have children or anybody else in the house, tell them, unless this house is on fire, don't knock on this door until I come out at 15 minutes or whatever it is. And I think you're teaching people not just to respect you and your boundaries, but you're teaching people that you are nourishing yourself, because so many people have so many multiple roles. I know some of them on this cast right now are juggling multiple roles in their lives, and they really do need that 15 minutes, what I call importing. So in the second part, I want to talk about 3 techniques that you can use starting with one that's called How to Relax on Demand. If you find yourself uptight, you can probably sense that your heart is beating faster, that you're getting more and more excited about something. It could be a phone call, it could be in person, it could be that you're trying to get the computer to do something that it's trouble. It could be that you're trying to get people into breakout rooms and your Zoom won't participate properly. One of the Relax on Demand is just to simply double the duration of your exhale. So consciously breathe in for 4 and then exhale for 8, or it could be 3 and it could be 6. But while you do that, you send a signal to your heart that you're not getting as much oxygen as you did before. So your heart will begin to slow down. And it's kind of an instant relaxation. I also studied various forms of martial arts almost all my life. And one of my very old, very wise Tai Chi teachers said that in order for us to relax, we need to repeat something and feel something. And I'm going to share that with you. And what he said was, think ice to water, water to vapor, vapor to air. And that gives you a way to relax your body. You're all tensed up, your flexors are all tense up, and you relax your body. So that's the ice to water, your water to vapor, and vapor to air. And if you repeat that a couple of times, you're going to find yourself very relaxed. Now, you talked, Derek, a few seconds ago about breath cadences, if you will. Generally speaking, especially when it comes to monitoring the heart and increasing heart rate variability, which means you can stand a greater variance of your heartbeats per minute, the best sequence, if you will, is 6 breaths per minute. All right. And in order to get 6 breaths per minute, number one, you can find plenty of timers. If you did a Google search that will set a gong or a small bell or something that'll give you like a metronome cadence, but you don't have to. You can simply inhale 2, 3, 4, 5, exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's the conscious breathing that we talked about. That's how you control your breathing. It does help if on the inhale, you breathe through your nose, and on the exhale, you exhale through pursed lips, as if you were sucking on a straw or something like that. So it could. Now, one of my other martial arts teachers is very big on constricting your throat and expelling your exhale a little bit more loudly, so that he believes that you get rid of more toxins that way. So he would do either way. You can do it quietly, you can do it through pursed lips, or you can do it with the constricted throat. I would just say, do it. All right. Then I want to give you a series of numbers to remember in the third way. The third way numbers is 3, 6, 5. 3 times a day, take 6 breaths per minute for the duration of 5 minutes. So it's 3 times a day, 6 breaths per minute, which is that optimal breathing cadence, and then do this for 5 minutes. Now, when should you do that? According to the research, and the research was done by a doctor. I'm not sure what his name is, but I know he's out of the university in Marseille, France. They said you do it right after you get up in the morning, right after your feet hit the floor. You go to a quiet place, or you can sit on the edge of the bed, and just do that 6 breaths per minute, and you do it for 5 minutes. And then you do it just before lunch, because between the time you get up and lunch, presumably a lot of things have happened. You may have had several meetings, you may have done several things, tasks, phone calls, whatever. Just before lunch, you want to do that 6 breaths per minute. That's the second of the 3 times. And then the last time that you do the 6 breaths per minute is just before retiring. So 3 times a day, 6 breaths per minute, 5 minutes duration. And first thing in the morning, just before lunch, so that you'll be relaxed and gives your digestive system a break, and just before you retire for the evening. One bonus one that I learned that was very much practiced by Sufi masters, Muslim leaders, if you will, from Muslim holy people from like the 12th, 13th century. They call this, they didn't, but other people call this the sniff and poof. Sniff and poof. And once again, it's on-demand relaxation. And what they say is you breathe in through your nose 3 times. Now you will find less and less ability to take in breath, certainly by the 3rd time. But the poof is then you exhale it, and you exhale it as if it was a big sigh of relief. So it would be, and I would do that ice to water, water to vapor, vapor to air as I exhaled it. That's just mine. I'm combining the Chinese and the Muslim. So it's sniff and poof. So it's 3 sniffs, and it's, now this is one of the things that I teach. I coach contestants in beauty pageant, and just before they go on or they do their interviews or whatever, they get pretty nervous. Other speakers get pretty nervous, and I teach them the sniff and poof, and it does well. And then finally, ending this section is yawning. Yawning is the natural breathing technique, and it will improve your health and it improves your well-being. Brule has almost a whole chapter on the benefits of yawning. It energizes us and it relaxes us at the same time. You could, if you want to spend your 15 minutes yawning, that's fine. I was surprised to learn this through Brule, because I had already learned it from a guy named Lanny Basham, who trains and coaches Olympic and world champion athletes, PGA golfers, a lot of people in the Olympics, a lot of shooting sports, so on and so forth, that he teaches his athletes to yawn 6 times before they go to the line or before they enter their competition. So it's very easy to yawn. You can fake the yawn and then all of a sudden it will take over. Yawning is so powerful. You've all noticed that it is contagious. Our body enjoys it immensely. And anything to improve your health and well-being like that is a good thing.
Okay,
all
Tim,
right,
I think it's time I think you've probably got another session, but I think it's time we went to the breakout groups. But before we do that, I'd just like to, for us all to do one massive great yawn, okay? I've got it on, ready? What I do think is quite funny, actually. We do start feeling tired at that point, don't you? And
well, keep in mind, socially, it's not acceptable.
Yeah.
Because the people around you think, oh, I'm sorry, am I boring you? No, I just wanted to feel better.
I do that sometimes in a training session when I want to do a pattern interrupt just for a bit of a laugh because someone yawns or something, and I don't really want to say, am I boring you? So instead of that, I say, did you know that yawning's contagious? And I do a big yawn and see how many people start yawning. And actually, you can start controlling all sorts of people, but you have to wake them up afterwards. After that. Now, guys, we want to hear from you, because we know that from the 17th of January session and from today's session, you'll have a lot of other ideas going through your heads. So Amy is going to put you into breakout groups, into 4 groups. And Tim, what's the challenge? To come up with as many ideas as possible.
Well, yeah, there's all kinds of ideas out there about what people do for their 15 minutes, how they relax, or how they could import energy instead of being an exporter. And there's also a lot of ideas on how you can relax if you've had a bad day, or that's negative. I'm sorry, I'm surprised you didn't ring me up, Derek. Okay. If you've had, let's call a very long day, and you know, what is it that you do to recover, rejuvenate, and what can you do for your 15 minutes? So is there a simple technique that you use, or what can you do in the 15 minutes? So, and when we come back, we'll have a report out, and we should come up with a bunch of ideas.
So 7 minutes in breaks. And for those of you that are new, this is the negativity bell, and anyone mentions anything negative or a negative word, they get the bell rung on them. So Tim, you're the first person today. Congratulations on being banned from negativity.
It's not the first time either.
Okay. Amy, over to you.
Okay, brilliant. So the rooms are all open now. You should be able to see them, and off you go.
Welcome back. Everyone's just had and shared their ideas on energy. Back to you, Tim. I'm on the flip chart to record whatever comes out.
Well, let's start with group 1. Who was the spokesperson, and what ideas did you come up with? And Derek is our scribe.
So we can go for it 1 minute each, really going for it. Get some energy going here. That would be fantastic.
Go on, Carol. You chaired it.
Okay, I also took notes, so
Yes,
that makes
exactly.
it easy. So 15 minutes to energize and calm ourselves. We had lots of ideas. We started off with thinking about, well, actually, we didn't start off, my list started when I started writing, was pets, stroking our pets, even watching our pets sleep. And, you know, we know that if we watch someone else doing something, then our mirror neurons kick in and we feel like we're doing it ourselves. So we can get a benefit from that. In terms of energizing, having a cold drink or splashing with cold water, even an icy shower was talked about, but nobody was very enthusiastic. We talked about dog walking or walking without a dog, but just getting outside, changing scenery. And that can be achieved not necessarily with going out for a walk itself, but also by just opening the door and having a stepping through the doorway and acknowledging that change of scenery and change of energy from your workspace to an outside space, ideally, but another space in the house if you can't get out. So change of scenery, change of environment, and stepping out of that area where we are perhaps too busy, we then allow our unconscious to work more by walking, by looking at the flowers and plants. I did mention that I'm a tree hugger myself, so I like to get out there and actually touch nature, get really in touch with nature and the surroundings, even just looking at views. I'm fortunate enough to be sitting here in front of the Moray Firth, which is dark at the moment, but during the day, it provides a beautiful breath moment between tasks. So connecting with nature and connecting with the seasons and appreciating the beauty in all the seasons, the shapes of the trees in the winter when there's more light can get through, the buds coming through and bringing us hope for springtime, and knowing that there's warmth will come, more so in some parts of the world than others. So I'll leave you with that.
Wow,
Thank you.
Lots of trouble keeping up there, and a lot of pressure on group 2, I feel.
Yeah, go ahead, group 2.
That's Will.
Oh, thank you.
He's fallen asleep. After the.
I haven't fallen asleep. I couldn't remember. I was crap at numbers. You all know that. Lynn talked about just getting absorbed in things, and for her, gardening and her role in life is painting. Paul does meditation. Jill, right at the beginning of the day, does stretching and breathing. Those were 3 out of the 6. Godfrey, myself, and Simon, we reckon we don't get stressed. And one of the discussions was because we don't, it's all often, it's not stress for ourselves, it's a stress, it's because of the people around us. When I was a chartered accountant with partners, clients and staff, I was well stressed, but now I'm working on my own, I have no stress. And Godfrey talked about 3 tanks, and I'm going to hand over to Godfrey to explain about a Mr. Atkins, because it was far too complicated for me. Godfrey, explain.
I was remembering when I first, in the early days of training, got involved with some of the very first behavioral scientists. We will remember Maslow and Herzberg and so on. And there was a chap called Atkins who had these 3 tanks of energy. And 1 tank was physical energy, 1 was mental, and the 3rd was emotional. And he argued, and I think it was a good argument, which I have remembered, that it's different for each individual, but to be calm and at peace at the end of a day, those 3 tanks for you had to be fulfilled. So if you were mentally stretched, maybe you should go out and do something physical. You needed to remember that your relationships and the emotional side was also in balance. And the 3 levels of those tanks would be different for all of us, but to recognize them and then put that into practice would help you at the end of the day think, yes, I'm in kilter, everything is fine for me. I can go on, but that's as simple as I can make it.
No, that's great. Thanks for that. It's interesting that Will raises the fact it's other people that stress us, and being aware of that is really important, because I think a lot of people aren't aware that someone changes your energy and lowers your energy almost in seconds with negativity. And
especially we call them energy vampires.
Yeah.
And I once had a boss. I said, "Boss, you don't have ulcers, but you are a carrier."
Did he fire you?
No, we were drinking at the time.
I was going to ask you, where does beer come into this? Because it helps me.
As long as it's Guinness, I'm good. That's about the only thing I'm down to drinking now.
Okay, we're on to Syndicate 3, I think, aren't we?
Yeah, Group 3, spokesperson.
Group 3, owning a dog was a big part of it. They talked about walking dogs, but I think actually just owning a dog is very good for you. The petting and cuddling and, you know, that unconditional love that they give you. And if you haven't got a dog, then just walking, going, whether you're in work and just going to different parts of the corporation, or getting out and going to the duck pond or whatever, all very, very good, getting out into nature. Having guided meditations, but it was very key that the voice was either Indian or soporific, both were mentioned. Using meditation apps, the ones that were mentioned were Calm and also Headspace. And then I've got Breathe, I can't remember what that was. A walking meditation, so taking 1 minute to take 1 step and just being really mindful of where your weight is and where the pressures are on your foot, and how do you physically move from one foot to the other. Going to India and actually studying this was another option, which I think has also come up in the chat. So a number of you may well have seen it, The Art of Living in South India with Sri Ravi Shankar. And laughing. We didn't mention that, but it's popped into my mind that, you know, laughing is a great stress reliever, but it is effectively another form of taking big gulps of breath, depending on how you laugh, of course.
Yeah. It's extremely therapeutic, very therapeutic.
Yeah, and the Wim Hof as well, which I do, but I find it quite difficult, the almost hyperventilating until you get to that calm.
Yeah, especially, which he recommends at the end of that session to take a very cold shower.
I do a cold shower every day, so I know that.
Well, that again is also supposed to be very therapeutic.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
I heard a few years ago they did experiments in hospitals about putting comedy on and making people laugh, and they got better quicker. But I haven't heard that recently. A lot of people are nodding. So yeah, okay.
There's a lot of research around that. And with the cold shower, a lot of people don't like the idea of a cold shower. It's having a cold shower. I have a hot shower and then I have a minute's cold shower at the end. You don't have to walk into a cold shower. You can warm up, have your shower, and then just do the cold bit at the end. It's good.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Well, I think that's a version of what they do in Norway, Sweden, and Finland, where they take a sauna and then roll in the snow on the way back to the house. Yeah.
I remember when I was a young boy, it was in the days when showers, we didn't really have showers. It was a continental thing. We just had a bath if you were very lucky. And my father, every morning of his life, would have a hot bath. He would stay in the bath, let the water out, and then fill it up with cold water and splash it all over himself. And that was his routine, and I think it energized him.
Wow.
There's a big movement for swimming in the sea here in the north of Scotland, where it's very cold, and even ice dipping in the Highland lochs, where I've seen a lady who saws holes in the ice and jumps in.
Just living in Scotland would work.
Thank you. So there's a lot of evidence also for people getting better faster in hospitals if they're near a window and they can see outside. If they have a view of the outside world and of nature, then it has a very beneficial effect on their health and the recovery time, less painkillers.
Wow. Okay. We're on to syndicate 4, I think, because the clock's ticking.
Group 4.
Group 4.
I'm happy to represent group 4 unless I have a contestant out there.
Thanks,
First off, I'll start with several people were talking about pets and dogs. Here's a fun fact. People or different institutions have studied the effect of pets. And if you put your heart on the dog for 17 seconds, the dog's energy will override yours. But you have to do it for 17 seconds. That's the bare minimum. 5 seconds is not going to cut it. And what else our group was talking about was grounding, meaning that you have to put your bare body on the ground, on the earth, not concrete, not asphalt, on tile, sort of like walking bare feet at the beach or on the grass or in the dirt. And gardening was already mentioned. Stretching, Mary was talking about stretching, very important. And Grace mentioned meditation, and meditation is whatever you make of it. It doesn't have to be something you read in the book. If it's a walk for you, if it's a swim for you, then that's your meditation. Whatever helps you reconnect with your inner self is just fine. Then we had something that hasn't been mentioned before, is singing or any sort of vocalization. If you look at all the spiritual rituals across the globe, they all involve some sort of vocalization. It doesn't have to be singing. Maybe you have a favorite sound, rock it out. You may want to be alone again for this, but hey, you don't have to. And let's see, what else do we have? I think that's it from our group.
Wow, we've got an awful lot of things there to look at. Yeah, walking on the beach barefooted, forest bathing or tree hugging, etc., etc. Tim, back to you to summarise, and then we'll turn the recording off and we'll stay on for as long as we need to, and perhaps even talk about how we can run another session on this.
Well,
There's so much information.
It's interesting we talk about pets, holding a pet. There's flexor muscles and there's extending muscles. But one of the best movements that is very calming is petting, skin contact, and holding a dog. We instantly go to petting the dog. Or if we hold a baby, it's the same thing. And the baby needs that in order to thrive. But I don't know if any of you are a grandparent, you know that you very seldom want to put a brand new baby down. People will wrestle you to hold that baby. But it's soothing for the grandparent and it's very soothing for the baby. So touch is a very big one. Now, in this last section, I'm going to take a risk with you, and I'm going off into land of what some people would call woo. It's these, what I'm going to be talking about is backed by science, but it's not generally talked about, and hardly ever is it scientifically or in the medical community talked about. I want to, by the way, I put Dan Brule's book, and I put Casper Vandermeulen, Casper spelled with a K. I put that in the chat box. So if you want to get that, this is Dan's book, and Casper has all kinds of things going on. But the next person I want to talk about is a person by the name of Wendy Palmer. Palmer. She is the founder of something called Leadership Embodiment. She is a Aikido instructor for over 40 years in California, in the San Francisco Bay Area. And she has, through her work, tapped into what she calls body wisdom, because our bodies have thousands and thousands of years of wisdom contained in it. We just do things because all that wisdom is in there. And she talks about, one of the things she talks about, her, by the way, her YouTube's Wendy Palmer, Leadership Embodiment, you can get into her. She's an outstanding speaker. She's very calm to listen to. And she always talks about how imperfect she is, that she still has to work on this herself. But she talks about the brain, that the neuroscientists have discovered that we have what is called a Parry personal space. And our Parry is a prefix, and it means around. That's why we have perimeter, comes from this word. But approximately from where our hands are, okay, the arm's length all around us, this is what our brain, our mind, recognizes as us, as our body. And if you wanted to test this and see if that's really true, think in terms of what happens when somebody that you don't know or don't care for comes within your arm's length, uninvited. Now think about something that feels good when somebody that you care deeply about, a child, a spouse, partner, a friend, comes within that space, and it's much more welcoming. So this is part of the body wisdom. This is why we avoid people. We walk around people, and we are able to walk around things. And she talks about understanding that peri-personal space. And she has several techniques for becoming recentered and so on. But I'm going to teach you two of hers. One is if you stand with, and I can't stand and be on the camera at the same time, but if you were to stand up, feet shoulder width apart, relax, shoulders down. By the way, almost all exhales should be done with shoulders going down. But if you stand, if you were to take a deep inhale, let that inhale come up your spine to the point where you want to lengthen your neck. It's as if your head had something on it, and it could pull it up from the crown of your head. So you bring your breath up the back of your back through your spine up to the top, lengthen your neck, and on the exhale, imagine your breath going down the front of you, all the way down your legs, through your feet, and into the ground or into the floor if you're not on ground level. So it's up the back, up the spine, lengthened neck, down the front, through the feet. And as soon as you finish that exhale, think of something that will make you smile that has happened recently to you. Think of something that just will make you happy, and think about that. And while you're thinking about that, then you want to expand your personal space. You want to go expand your peri-personal space as if it were a bubble, like you were in a bubble, and you expand that positive feeling, that smile, that joy, that happiness, and you expand it out, and you can go as far as you want, but you definitely want to expand it. And you can do this a couple of times. It literally is just remarkable. So one more time is you exhale up your back through your lengthened neck, and then you exhale through the front, all the way down your front, through your legs, into the ground. Recall something that would make you smile that happened recently, and then expand your bubble. This peripersonal space is very important. I have happened to study Aikido for almost 6 years, and that's how I came to know Wendy Palmer, because she's very famous in that community. But one of the things that's interesting about Aikido is that there is no first move in Aikido. There's no offensive technique. In karate, kung fu, tang soo do, taekwondo, you can always attack. In Aikido, you can't, because Aikido means the way of love and harmony. That's how it generally translates. But what happens is this space between you and your opponent becomes very important. And what Wendy taught me is that rather than accept someone's insults or someone's negative energy, or let a person say something that's going to affect you negatively, just let it go into the space between you and let it evaporate there. Rather than let it go into you and into your body, let it go into, because in Aikido, many times, whenever we're attacked, the person who attacks us finds out we're not there. We have pivoted off to the left, pivoted off to the right. We have stepped back. In some cases, we have entered. It's a remi. But most of the time, we spin off to the left or spin to the right, and they end up hitting space. And they're helpless when they hit space, and their attack is helpless. So that's very important. And then the last thing that I learned from Wendy is that sometimes we don't have the strength to deal with the situation that we're presented. We don't have the wisdom. We don't have the compassion that we can access at that moment. Sometimes we don't have the strength, or we feel that we don't have the power. We're at energy deficit, if you will. And that's when she calls and she says, you should get yourself a posse. Posse is P-O-S-S-E. Posse is from the American Cowboys. Back then, if there were bad guys that were doing bad things, the sheriff would get a bunch of people together, typically men. He would deputize them. That would be the posse, and they would then go out and capture the bad people or get rid of the bad people. His posse was his helpers. Well, you can create your own posse with people either living or dead. Historical figures are fine. For example, I'll tell you members of my posse. My wisdom members is the Dalai Lama and the Vietnamese monk who recently passed away, Thich Nhat Hanh, who's written 140 books, who is one of the most remarkable people, I think, in human history. But they're very, very wise people. So I said, what do you think Thich Nhat Hanh would think about this? When it comes to compassion, two people jump out. Number one, Mother Teresa, and because of my faith background, Jesus. All right, very compassionate. And then finally, for strength and power, I only go to the founder of Aikido, whom we call O Sensei. It's a honorific. His name is Morihei Ueshiba. But anyways, very powerful person. So Wendy Palmer, leadership embodiment, I think it's a wonderful series of things that you can do and feel and develop inner strength that you never even knew you could tap into. That's it for me. I am always available for questions, tim@timdurkin.com. I welcome your emails. Anything I can do to support you as being a viewer, a member of Derek's chat show posse, I sure would love to do it. Back to you, my friend.
Thanks, Tim. That was amazing. In fact, we could have broken that up into 2 sessions. I think we might have to next time. The one thing I learned from Tim only 6 months ago is to ask someone who might be having not such a good day, what's the best thing that happened to you today? And remember the question mark that's right behind it, so you don't say anything else. And you watch their eyes go all over the place in an NLP session as they search for the answer, and then they come up with it. Tim Durkin, thanks so much for joining us yet again. Look forward to you coming on as a guest and as a speaker shortly. We'll go into your book. We've got some more questions for you on your book, but members of Monday Night Live, can you give Tim the usual round of applause and thank you?
Thank you. So hum.
And if you're watching this on YouTube or the Negotiations podcast, share it with other people, spread the word. Lifelong learning, personal development is so important in everything we do, and how you help other people is so important. This is Derek Arden signing off. Thanks for joining us.